So hi, one more time. Thank you so much for joining Vimo Data Breach Monitoring webinar. My name is Olga and I'm Business Development Manager for Security. And I have Fred with me, who is Security Officer. So it's nice to see such a large audience here today. I would ask kindly everybody who could to mute themselves so that we do not have any background noise and do not get any disturbance. If you guys would like to ask the questions during the webinar, please use Q&A session and we will try to answer all the questions after the session. So let's start then. I see that there's quite a few people who are not Vimo clients. So let me give a brief intro about who we are. We are a full-service digital commerce agency. We have been around for more than 10 years. We are currently located in 14 countries and have 20 offices. There's more than 500 employees, and we have more than 400 successful projects behind our back. So we have lots of experience with e-commerce. We work with leading brands, retailers and manufacturers from all over the world, and we take security really seriously. Security is a layered approach, and we either use best-in-class tools to protect ourselves and our clients and their clients, or we develop our own tools if there's a lack of those in the market. And today we are going to talk about data breaches, why they happen, how they happen, and what we can do in order to prevent those. So we talk again about personal data breaches. We do not talk about any other breaches today, all right? So why do breaches happen in general? 52% of the breaches are caused by us humans. So what that means is that we make mistakes as humans. Maybe some of us do not have enough cybersecurity education. We are distracted, etc., etc. For instance, people can use weak passwords or share usernames and passwords, or click on suspicious emails or open weird links, and all of those can lead to data breaches. The next most important thing about data breaches is complexity of the systems and tools. So when e-commerce started, there was just the proprietary code that everybody used for their website or for their e-commerce shop. And whoever developed that code was quite sure about how they developed it, how secure the code was, etc. Currently, the websites, as you all guys know, are very complex things. We use a lot of tools and platforms in order to make the sites better, easier to use by the users, faster, better understandable. But what that brings in is that if any of the third-party tools get breached, then all of the websites who use those tools are potentially breached. And we've seen that with chatbots, with some analytical tools, with ad engines, etc. Okay, and as I mentioned, the problem here is that the code that the tools uses has the same rights as the proprietary code. And then what adds to the data breaches is the variety of users, poor processes, and variety of data. So the users leave, their rights change, etc., and maybe they are not managed properly, and that can lead to the data breaches. So when we talk about breaches in e-commerce, most of the time those breaches are done by organized crime or criminals, and they do those for the financial reasons. So if we talk specifically about page part breaches, which are quite widely spread and bring a lot of financial damage to the companies, currently there are 8 criminal groups that do this kind of attacks. And only last year, there were 6 of them. So it's quite a profitable business for the criminals, and the number of these groups doing this kind of crime is growing. And the criminals do that for financial reasons. There's several things how the criminals earn money by the breaches. So the first thing is, if you steal personal data, you can sell it on black market. And the more rich this data is, the more, let's say, points it have, the more expensive it gets. So obviously, if you steal just first name and last name, it does not give you any interesting information. But if to that you get the email and you get credit card details, you can sell it quite expensively on the black market. The other ways that the criminals may earn money from the data breaches is that they may use the stolen credentials of credit cards to purchase things online, or they can use the stolen credentials to do the more complex attacks. And when the data breaches happen, I'm sure you've seen some of the articles that have been widely publicized, is that it costs companies quite a lot to hire external cybersecurity experts and to contact their clients to explain about the breach, etc., etc. And the criminals can also blackmail the companies and tell them that they will go public with the information about the breach. So if we talk about the vulnerabilities, then it's oftentimes what happens is that it's not one vulnerability that it is exploited for the breach, but it's a number of those. So what we should try to do with different tools is to take care that we protect or cover those vulnerabilities in the websites. Scale of breaches. The type of front-end or mage guard breaches have been happening since 2014. Last year, we know that 2,000 of the biggest websites in the world were breached, and even several Vimo clients have been breached in the past. Okay, here are some companies whose breaches are really well publicized. And what you will notice here is that all of those breaches took place for weeks or months. And what that means is that a lot of the end users of those websites were affected. So imagine if the breach lasts for, let's say, 5 months, how many users went during that time period to the website and whose data could have been stolen. And why those breaches last for such a long period of time is because they are really hard to detect. Oftentimes there's no visual clues on the website that will tell you that something is wrong with that and that something is happening. So how do breaches happen technically? Well, first of all, it's good to understand that oftentimes it's not one specific site that is targeted by the attackers. And of course, it may happen in the case of, let's say, Marriott or British Airways, but for e-commerce stores, what can usually happen is that since the resources on the internet is really cheap, that the hackers try to target as many companies as possible so that they can test where they can get in. And once they are in the website, then they exploit the vulnerabilities. So from this mage guard attack perspective, JavaScript is usually a common factor. So either a malicious JavaScript code is injected into the existing file or HTML is edited. And then this malware sits there, collects all the data or some data that the customer enters, and then this malware sends this data off to the servers controlled by the hackers. And this is almost impossible to detect. And now I'll explain you about what tool we have developed in order to deal with this type of breaches. So as I mentioned before, several of the Vimo clients had breaches in the past, and there were no tools available at the time on the market that could help us avoid this kind of situations. And we decided to develop a tool that will help to notice those breaches as fast as possible, and then we can act on the information from the tool. So this data breach monitoring tool does not prevent breaches, But what it does, it alerts us if a breach happens. So it's an elegant way to be sure where the information from the website is being sent. As I mentioned, when the malware sits on the website, at some point it has to send off the information to the hackers. So this tool will detect that. Okay, so when the site is compromised, the tool will alert our team immediately, and we can investigate what is happening, what is causing the breach, or what is happening on the website. From the graph here, you will see that usually the detection time or discovery of the breach will take weeks or months. But what our tool allows us to do is to reduce significantly the detection time so that we can find out about the breach in minutes or hours, depending on the package or how often we scan your website. So how does this tool work technically? First of all, we start by setting up a user journey. For e-commerce sites, there can be two types of journeys that are most often used. It will be either a registration process, if you collect a lot of information about your user during the registration, or it will be a checkout process. So the bot will act exactly as the user. It will go to the website. For instance, if it's checkout, then it will select a product, add it to the cart, and then proceed with the payment. During the setup process, what will happen is that we will get a list of all the calls that website makes. So together with the client, we will analyze all those calls and whitelist those that should be authorized. And then each next time the bot will run, it will compare all the calls that the website makes to this whitelist. And if it finds something unexpected that is not whitelisted, it will alert our team, and we can go in and investigate what is causing this call. Most often, why we'll get the notification is regular operations process, is that something was amended on the website, some functionality was added there, or some tool was added there. And in that case, the client or the client's team will just notify us and let us know that this new destination host would also be whitelisted. However, if the team has not authorized or the client has not authorized this call, it's a good sign of the breach, and then we can go in and investigate the situation further, find on the website what is causing this call, and if it's malware, which it should be in this case, we can remove that. Okay. So who can benefit from this tool? Basically, any company who has an e-commerce store, any company who is worried about potential data breaches, any company who's processing customer data, who's processing financial transactions, any company who's using third-party JavaScript, all of our clients are, for instance, any company who wants to protect its reputation. Yes, so those are the companies who would benefit from this tool. What I would like to add here is that what we've seen during this current situation with the COVID is that there's a spike, a huge spike actually, in all kinds of hacking activity on the website. We can see that there's increase in mage cart attacks. For instance, those have been up 20% this year already. And there's all kinds of hacking activity on the rise. And this is due to several reasons. Well, first of all, hackers use this kind of, let's say, events that cause a lot of news as means to distract the people and to make them click on different things, open emails, and do something that maybe the people would not normally do. The other thing with the current situation, which is quite unusual for a lot of companies, is that people are working from home. So they might be working from less secure networks. maybe they are distracted even more because they are working from home, maybe they have kids there, or maybe they have to think about 10 different things at the same time, etc. Maybe the security processes are not in place when you're working from home. And the other, of course, side of that COVID situation is that a lot of shopping has gone online. So for some companies in travel industries or in hospitality industries, of course, we see a huge reduction of any kind of transactions. But on the other hand, we see a huge increase in groceries, clothes, do-it-yourself sector, etc., etc. So, for instance, several latest breaches that have been publicized are, for instance, Robert Days in UK. It's a do-it-yourself store. It was hacked in March, major heart attack, and the attack lasted, if I remember correctly, for about 3 weeks. The other company that was hacked recently, I think also in March, was the NutriBullet, also in March. But what happened there was that they removed the malware when they discovered that it's on their site, but I guess they could not or did not understand how to secure the site properly. So the malware got into the site in the same way as in the first place, almost immediately when it was removed. So the guys had to do the same process again. So what happened in the end was that the company had to hire outside cybersecurity experts who would help them secure the website properly to make sure that the malware cannot get in again. So that was quite a nasty situation for the company. So benefits to you, if you use this product, are that you will be aware of all calls that the website makes. It's actually quite important also from the GDPR perspective, because as you know, we are supposed to know how we handle our clients' data or end user data. We should know where it is sent, how it is used, etc. So for some of our larger clients, what has happened there is that they had to review, for instance, their terms and conditions, and had to remove some how they use Google Tag Manager, etc., because it was not in line with the GDPR legislation, or it was how they intended the use of the personal data on their websites. So this is quite an important point here. And currently, a lot of companies we see that do not have a good overview of this situation. The next thing is that you won't have unauthorized changes to the website. So again, nobody, even from your team, can add something there that should not be there. The same Google Tag Manager or some kind of other analytical tool, etc., etc. So we'll get the notifications that the website is making calls to those unexpected destinations, and then you guys can confirm whether it should be authorized or not. Of course, the most important benefit here is that we can reduce significantly the detection time from days to weeks or months to minutes. As you've seen, most often the companies do discover the breaches in months, actually. And the GDPR we talked about from the client data perspective, but we also know that if the breach happens, so we have to notify the authorities, and then the authorities have to come in and review the processes and the precautionary measures that the company has taken in order to prevent this kind of breach. And this is one of the tools that will help you comply with the legislation and show that you did take precautionary measures. And of course, since the detection time is reduced to days and minutes, you will be able to significantly reduce the number of people affected by the breach if it happens. Okay, so what is really good to know also about this tool is that it requires almost no coding. So If you're not Vimo client, we do not need access to your systems. We just need to agree on which websites we monitor and what user journeys we'll monitor, okay? So that's really important for a lot of people here. And it's e-commerce platform agnostic. So we have a lot of experience, for instance, with Magento, but this tool will work on any e-commerce platform. So as a client, what you will get? You will get an access to the dashboard, which you can actively go to and review what is scanned, or what of your websites are scanned, what is scanned there, when was the last scan, whether it was successful or not, and when the next scan will be. It will show you everything that was whitelisted for you and who whitelisted it and when and for which reason. And in case there would be a malware, you would find it here also, okay? So, packages and costs. The cost structure is quite simple for this product. It's setup fee and a monthly fee, okay? The fee is per user journey. If you have more than one user journey, we will have to make a custom proposal for you. But generally, the price starts from 150 euros per month. The packages, we have currently 5 different packages: daily, hourly, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, or 5 minutes. So what do those packages mean is that your website is scanned according to this frequency. And what it means is, for instance, you have the daily package. So let's say we scanned your website yesterday and it showed that the scan was successful, nothing was found here. And now we scan today and we, for instance, find the malware. So what it means for you is that the malware was on the website for 1 day, and you had the maximum number of your customers who were affected by this malware were the people who were on the website or who did purchases on the website during this period of time. So you see, if the breach happens and you do have to report to the regulator, you'll be quite confident about how many people were affected and what period of time the breach lasts for. And this is really important from the regulation perspective. What's an additional benefit here of this product is that it works based on user journeys. So for instance, if the user journey is broken, if the checkout is not working, we will also get notification. And it worked really nicely for a few of our clients because nobody knew from them that the website was not working properly and that the end users wouldn't be able to make purchases. So since they are scanned on every 15 minutes, for instance, the max time when they didn't know that the checkout was broken was 15 minutes, we notified the team and the team was able to fix the issue quite quickly. So that was a side benefit, which was also quite neat here, okay? So, okay, that's it for my presentation. We've covered quite a lot of things here. And let's see if we have any questions that I can answer for you guys.